Okay, in this lesson we'll be learning about ELR 8.5. Here is our warm-up for today. We have a flagpole, 282 feet tall. The shortest shadow cast by this pole this year is 137 feet. So this pole, if I go ahead and make the height, make our right triangle. So the height here is 282 feet. The shadow is 137 feet long. The sun is over here. They want to know what is the angle of elevation of the sun when casting the flagpole's shortest shadow. So remember, angle of elevation is with the horizontal going up. So it's not the angle up on the top there, it's the angle right here. This is the angle I'm looking for. So which trig function is it from SOHCAHTOA? Sine, cosine, or tangent? 282 is opposite of that angle, and 137 is adjacent, so I'm using tangent here. So let's set up our equation for finding an angle, which is this. I'm going to insert now inverse tangent. Opposite was 282 and adjacent was 137. We're going to do this in the calculator. Make sure your calculator is in degree mode. So the angle I got in the calculator was 64 degrees. All right, so today's objective is ELR 8.4. We're going to be learning something called the law of sines. This law, which is real important, is used for triangles that are non-right triangles. It could be acute triangles, obtuse triangles, anything else that's not a right triangle, we could use this law. So we're going to first discover how they actually got this property, and then we're going to use this property to solve problems. So I'd like everyone to draw this triangle here the way it's labeled, triangle ABC. We have our little sides labeled with little a, little b, little c. And what we're going to do here is we're going to draw an altitude, which is the height from angle C to side AB, and we're going to label it H. So that's what I'm going to do here. We're going to label it H. Altitude is making a right angles. So if you notice there, we have two right triangles. Now, let us go ahead and find from the left triangle, sine of A. So I'm putting my point on A. Sine of A now, we're talking about what it is in letter form. So sine A is going to equal my opposite, which is the H, and my hypotenuse, which is the little b. Now I'm going to find sine B from the triangle on the right. Sine B, opposite is also H, and the hypotenuse is A. If you notice, what are they both sharing? H. So I'm going to cross multiply here. H is going to equal B times sine A. H over here is going to equal A times sine B. Because they're both equal to H, we can make them equal to each other. So we're going to have B times sine A equals A times sine B. We pretty much have the law of sines here, but now they're organizing it so it makes a little bit more sense. So if you notice here, we have little b, which is side B, and we have sine B, the angle on the other side. So we're going to flip-flop and move this angle here by dividing over to this side. And I'm also going to divide by sine A so that I could bring it over on this side. So when I do all that, these are going to cancel. These are going to cancel. And this is my law of sines. So I'm going to advance ahead. So the law of sines, here it is, you could write this down, is the sine of the angle divided by its side to equal the sine of the angle divided by its side. So in this formula here, they have three of them listed because we have three angles with three sides. When we are using this to answer a problem, we're just going to be using two of these together. So again, law of sines is used for triangles that are not right triangles to find a missing side or a missing angle. So that's the law of sines right here. So make sure you have that in your notes. So now let's look at a problem to practice here. In triangle ABC, the measure of angle A is 48 degrees, the measure of angle B is 93 degrees, and AC is 15. To the nearest tenth, what is the length of BC? Make your triangle and label. So since this is not a right triangle, I'm going to make one that doesn't look like a right triangle. We got angle A, we got angle B, we got angle C. Now let's put in the information that they're giving us. They're telling us that angle A is 48, angle B is 93, AC is 15. We want to find the length of BC. All right, so the law of sine says I'm looking at an angle with the side opposite of that angle as my first ratio. So let's write down the formula again. Sine A over A, sine B over B. So X is opposite of what angle? 48 degrees. So that's going to be my first fraction that I'm going to set up. So I'm going to say sine of 48 degrees over X, because that side is opposite of 48 degrees. Then, looking the other way, side 15 is opposite of what angle? 93 degrees. So that's my next pair I'm going to write down. So sine 93 over 15. So the most important thing when you set up law of sines is that you must use the side with the angle that's opposite that side. Now we have a proportion here. So let's go ahead and solve this by cross multiplication. So I got my X times sine 93 to equal 15 times sine 48. We want to solve it for X, so let's move sine 93 to the right. It's attached by multiplication, so the opposite is to divide. And now this is what I'm going to put in my calculator. 15 times sine 48 divided by sine 93. Pause the video and see what you get. I have my length of side BC to be 11.2. All right, let's go on to another one. Triangle RST this time says RT is 11, ST is 18, so we know those are two sides, and the measure of angle R is 120. So the nearest tenth, what is the measure of angle S? All right, so let's make a triangle that doesn't look like a right triangle. This would be the 120 degrees here, RST. ST is 18 and RT 11. We want to figure out angle S here. All right, so let's take a look at it. Again, it's not a right triangle, so we're going to use law of sines. We want to pair up the side with the angle opposite of that side. So 18 is opposite of 120. So I'm going to write it as sine 120 over the side that's opposite of that angle to equal 11 is opposite of the angle that we're looking for, S. So sine of S, or you could put X if you want, that's the one we're looking for, is opposite of the side of 11. So there is my proportion. All right, we're going to cross multiply again. So it's going to be 18 times sine S to equal 11 times sine 120. Now, let's look at this on the left side. We have 18 times sine S. We definitely want to get the 18 to the right, so division. And I have sine S equals 11 times sine 120, all divided by 18. Now, who remembers what we're looking for here? We're looking for an angle. Who remembers what button or what symbol represents to find an angle for the basic trig functions? That was the symbol of sine to the negative 1. So basically, this and this is the exact same thing. And in parentheses, I'm going to have 11 times sine 120 over 18. So you are putting that in your calculator. Pause and see what you get. I get angle S to be 32 degrees. All right, next one. Here they're giving us the picture so you don't have to make one, and it tells us to use law of sines to find X and Y. So most important thing again is pairing up the side with the angle that's opposite of that side for your first ratio. So it's looking like 5 is opposite, right, of the 119. So that's the one I'm going to set my first proportion as. So we're going to have it as, oops, sine 119 over 5 to equal. All right, let's see. We got 22 degrees here. What side is opposite of 22 degrees? That's the x. So I'm going to have it as sine 22 over x. And again, why are we using law of sines? Because it's not a right triangle. All right, so let's go ahead and cross multiply and solve it. Okay, when I finished up, I got my cross multiplication, I got 2.1 for x. All right, let's talk about the next one to find y. So again, I'm still going to use that same ratio that I did before. I'm going to use the 5, which is opposite of the 119. So I'm going to do sine 119 over 5. All right, now, what is opposite of y? Is this angle here. Well, how do I get that third angle? So remember, we know a triangle adds up to 180. So if I add up 119 and 22 and subtract it from 180, I get this angle to be 39 degrees. So that's the angle I'm going to be using for my second proportion, sine 39 degrees over y. So here now we're going to do our cross multiplication. Pause the video and see what you get. So I get y to be 3.6. All right, last question, finding angle R. So what I'd like you to do, pause the video, see if you can figure out the two fractions that you're going to make equal to each other for law of sines. And we know we're using law of sines because it's not a right triangle. Okay, did you set that up right? 39 degrees was opposite of 28, and then angle R was opposite of 41. All right, cross multiplication, see what you get for the angle. Okay, when I cross multiply, remembering that sine R means we're finding an angle, so this is the symbol to find an angle in the calculator. I get 67.1 degrees. Okay, that is it for ELR 8.4 on law of sines.